Welcome back to English Lovers Studio. Today, we're diving into a fascinating set of phrasal verbs related to different occasions, such as cause and effect and success and failure. Phrasal verbs in different occasions, Part 1. First up, let's explore some phrasal verbs that revolve around cause and effect. Set off. This phrasal verb means to cause something to happen or start, often triggering a chain reaction. For example, the politician's controversial statement set off a wave of protests across the country, or the loud noise set off the car alarms in the entire neighborhood. Spark off. If something sparks off, it ignites or causes something intense or violent to begin. You might say, the scandal sparked off a nationwide discussion about ethics in politics, or his careless comments sparked off an argument among the team members. Trigger off. Similar to spark off, to trigger off means to start a process or event, often something sudden or violent. For instance, the power outage triggered off a series of technical failures in the system, and the earthquake triggered off landslides in the surrounding mountains. Bring about. To bring about means to cause something to happen or change. For example, the new policies brought about significant improvements in the education system, or his leadership brought about positive changes in the company. Lie behind. When something lies behind a situation, it means it's the real reason or cause for it. Consider, personal grievances often lie behind conflicts in the workplace, or the economic recession lies behind the recent rise in unemployment. Pay back. This can mean to return money or to take revenge. You might hear, she paid back the loan to the bank ahead of schedule, or he was determined to pay back his enemies for betraying him. Stir up. To stir up means to provoke or cause emotions or trouble. For example, the leader's speech stirred up feelings of resentment among the crowd, or the controversial article stirred up a lot of anger online. Bring back. To bring back means to cause someone to remember or think about something from the past. You might say, listening to that old song brought back memories of my childhood, or visiting the town brought back feelings of nostalgia from my school days. Rule out. To rule out means to eliminate or exclude something as a possibility. For instance, the doctors have ruled out cancer as the cause of his symptoms, or we can rule out bad weather as a reason for the delay. Spring from. This means to be caused by or originate from something. For example, her creativity springs from her love of art and culture, or the problem springs from a lack of proper communication. Next, let's look at some phrasal verbs related to success and failure. Bring off. To bring off means to succeed in doing something difficult. For example, despite the challenges, they brought off the merger between the two companies, or she managed to bring off a successful product launch under tight deadlines. Catch on. If something catches on, it becomes popular or you understand it. For instance, that new dance trend is really starting to catch on with teenagers, or it took him a while, but he finally caught on to the complex rules of the game. Take off. To take off means to become successful or popular very quickly. For example, the startup's new app really took off after it was featured on a popular blog, or her career took off when she landed a role in a blockbuster movie. Take over. This means to assume control or responsibility. For example, the new manager took over the project after the previous leader resigned, or the larger company is planning to take over its smaller competitor. Fall through. To fall through means to fail or not happen as planned. For example, unfortunately, our deal with the investors fell through at the last minute, or the vacation plans fell through when their flight was cancelled. Come off. To come off means to succeed or have a good result. For instance, the plan to modernize the factory came off better than expected, or his performance in the play came off brilliantly, impressing everyone in the audience. Pull off. This means to succeed in achieving something difficult. For example, they pulled off a victory in the final minutes of the game, or she managed to pull off the deal despite initial setbacks. Build on. To build on means to use success as a base for further development. For instance, the company plans to build on last year's success by expanding into new markets, or he is trying to build on the progress he's made with his fitness routine. Walk into, this means to get something easily, often by chance. For example, he walked into a great job right after graduation, or she walked into an amazing opportunity when she met the CEO at a networking event. Muddle through, to muddle through means to succeed in a disorganized or unplanned way. For instance, we didn't have a clear strategy, but we managed to muddle through the project somehow, or without much experience, she muddled through her first year at the job. Pay off, to pay off means to produce good results after a lot of effort. For example, all her hard work paid off when she passed the final exam with flying colors, or the risks he took in business finally paid off when his company became successful. Stay ahead, to stay ahead means to remain more successful than others in a competitive situation. For example, in the tech industry, companies must constantly innovate to stay ahead of the competition, or she worked hard to stay ahead in her studies and always maintained the top spot in her class. Now, let's move on to phrasal verbs related to starting and finishing. Set about, to set about means to start doing something, especially in an organized or determined way. For example, after the meeting, they set about creating a new plan for the project, or she set about cleaning the house as soon as the guests left. Set out, to set out means to start an activity or journey with a specific goal or purpose. For instance, they set out early in the morning to climb the mountain, or she set out to become a doctor and worked hard to achieve her goal. Start off, to start off means to begin in a particular way or to do the first part of something. For example, the meeting started off with a brief introduction by the CEO, or he started off his career as a junior clerk and worked his way up to manager. Start out, to start out means to begin your life, job, or career in a particular way. For instance, she started out as a teacher before becoming a school principal, or they started out with just a small cafe and now own a chain of restaurants. Call off, to call off means to cancel something that was planned. For example, due to bad weather, they had to call off the outdoor concert, or the negotiations were called off after both sides failed to reach an agreement. Dry up, to dry up means to come to an end or stop being available. For example, the stream dried up after weeks of no rain, or his creativity dried up halfway through writing the book. Break off, to break off means to stop suddenly, especially when speaking or in the middle of something. For instance, she broke off in the middle of her speech when she heard a loud noise, or they broke off the negotiations after failing to reach a compromise. Finish off, to finish off means to complete the last part of something. For example, he stayed late to finish off the report before the deadline, or let's finish off this pizza before we leave. Polish off, to polish off means to finish something completely, especially food or a task. For instance, they quickly polished off the entire cake after the party, or she polished off her homework in just an hour. Pack up, to pack up means to stop doing something and prepare to leave. For example, after the event, the crew packed up all the equipment and headed home, or it's getting late, let's pack up and finish the rest tomorrow. Give up, to give up means to stop trying to do something or to stop a habit. For instance, after several failed attempts, he decided to give up learning the guitar, or she made a promise to give up smoking for good. Cut down, to cut down means to reduce the amount of something. For example, he's trying to cut down on sugar to improve his health, or we need to cut down the time we spend on unnecessary meetings. Wind down, to wind down means to gradually come to an end or to relax after an activity. For instance, the company will wind down its operations by the end of the year, or after a long day at work, I like to wind down by reading a book. Fizzle out, to fizzle out means to gradually lose strength or momentum and come to an end. For example, the excitement over the new product fizzled out after a few months, or their enthusiasm for the project fizzled out as challenges started to arise. Give up, as mentioned earlier, this means to stop trying or quit something. For instance, they gave up on the project when they realized it wasn't feasible, or after years of struggle, she gave up on her dream of becoming a dancer. Finally, let's touch on some phrasal verbs related to actions and movement. Fall down, to fall down means to collapse or drop to the ground. For example, the old building fell down during the storm, or he slipped on the ice and fell down. Move on. To move on means to leave a situation and start something new. For instance, after finishing college, she decided to move on and explore new career opportunities, or it's time to move on from this project and start focusing on the next one. Carry on. To carry on means to continue doing something. For example, despite the interruptions, she carried on with her presentation, or he decided to carry on with his studies even after facing setbacks. Hold on. To hold on means to keep something tightly or wait for a moment. For instance, hold on to the railing for safety, or hold on, I'll be with you in a minute. Turn up. To turn up means to arrive or increase in volume or intensity. For example, he turned up at the party unexpectedly, or turn up the music so we can hear it better. Put off. To put off means to delay or postpone something. For instance, we had to put off the meeting until next week, or she decided to put off her vacation plans until the summer. Phrasal verbs with a focus on those related to destroying and reacting to destruction. Fall apart. This means to break into pieces or to be in a state of emotional breakdown. The old building is so damaged, it could fall apart at any moment. After the divorce, she felt like her life was falling apart. Pull down. To demolish or destroy a structure. They are planning to pull down the old library to make way for new apartments. The government pulled down the monument that had caused controversy. Screw up. To ruin or make a mess of something, to upset emotionally. I screwed up my presentation by forgetting the main points. The breakup really screwed him up for a while. Tear apart. To destroy something by pulling it into pieces, or to cause emotional distress. The wild animals tore apart the tent during the night. The argument between the siblings is tearing the family apart. Tear down. To demolish or disassemble something. They had to tear down the old warehouse to build a new office complex. Protesters want to tear down symbols of oppression. Knock over. To cause something to fall by hitting or pushing it. He accidentally knocked over the vase while reaching for his phone. The wind was so strong that it knocked over the trash bins on the street. Put out. To extinguish a fire or stop something from burning. Firefighters quickly put out the fire before it spread to neighboring houses. Don't forget to put out the candles before you go to bed. Root out. To find and eliminate something harmful or unwanted. The new law is designed to root out corruption in the government. We need to root out the cause of the computer virus before it spreads. Stamp out. To eliminate or end something completely. The organization is working hard to stamp out child labor worldwide. Strict regulations were introduced to stamp out illegal logging. Fight back. To resist or defend oneself from an attack or harmful action. When the company tried to exploit its workers, they fought back by forming a union. She decided to fight back against the bullies by reporting them to the principal. Bend over backward. To make an extraordinary effort to please or help someone. He bent over backward to help her prepare for the exam. The staff bent over backward to ensure that the event was a success. See through. To recognize the true nature of something or someone, especially when they are trying to deceive. I could see through his lies immediately. She promised to help me, but I could see through her insincerity. Turn on. To suddenly attack or criticize someone, or to activate something like a machine. He turned on his friends after they disagreed with him. See to. To take responsibility for or deal with something. Can you see to the arrangements for the meeting tomorrow? I'll see to it that your complaint is addressed as soon as possible. I hope you found these phrasal verbs useful. If you have any questions or want to dive deeper into any of them, leave a comment below. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our future videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.